Gather around the fire, my friends. Welcome to the Drunken Cryptids. I'm your guide, Matthew. Here, you'll hear encounters of the spooky, paranormal, the strange, and the unknown. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. It's showtime.
Was these two globes. I don't know how to describe them. And I stood up there and looked at them, and it's like...
That how she turned and looked at me, she backed straight up to my closet door.
I just couldn't hold it anymore, and I was like, oh my gosh, that was a chupacabra. I was so excited.
I am drinking something I affectionately refer to as a Matty Rita.
And welcome back to another episode of the Drunken Cryptids. I'm your host, Matthew Wharton, and I want to give a quick shout out to blademedia.com. Blade Media, they have done an excellent job of making the logo for us. They've done great. Dylan over there is a wonderful guy. He works really hard. He gets back to you. He's a local company. You know, you always want to go with the little guys, and, you know, Dylan's great. If you can't tell from our logo, he does a really wonderful job. Gunnar, Tommy, I appreciate all the hard work you guys have put into behind the scenes of the editing and the posting and keeping me in line, and y'all put up with a lot from me, and I do appreciate it all. Jacob is not with me tonight, but that's all right, though. Jacob has other things to do besides hanging out with Matthew all the time, so... with that, we're going to move on to that we will be at the Arkansas Paranormal Expo this October 26th and 27th. Come down. I'll have a booth set up. We'll be able to do interviews. We're going to meet with some of the guest speakers. We'll have T-shirts for sale. We're going to have maybe some coffee cups, maybe some koozies, but definitely T-shirts. And T-shirts are available for pre-order. About once a month, I place an order. So if you definitely want one, go to the Facebook page and send me a message with your size, and I'll let you know how much and when to expect it. So... be looking for that one. Speaking of which, follow me on Facebook. Follow me on Spotify, YouTube, Twitter. Nope, not Twitter. Instagram. See, I keep mentioning sites and stuff like that I'm not on yet. But I am on Instagram. We're on everywhere. And please give us a like and a share. The more likes and shares you guys give us, the more that we get out there, the more encounters I can get for you. Also, if you've had an encounter, something strange, crazy, weird, whatever, it doesn't matter, email me. Reach out to me, drunkencryptids@gmail.com. And we'll talk. See if maybe we can get you on the show or not. But I do have a special guest come on the night, and he's calling in from Texas. And this guy's had a really unique experiences, pretty much almost his whole entire life, when it comes down, when it involves one of my favorite cryptids. And I think it's pretty cool that here recently we've had a lot of, Bigfoot encounters, a lot of, Bigfoot stories coming on the show. So I'm really excited about it. And I love sitting down and talking about Bigfoot. And I can probably talk Bigfoot for hours and hours and hours. But, tonight I've got Billy. Billy, how you doing tonight?
Pretty good. How you doing, Matt?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you for coming on and reaching out and talking to me about it. And we talked the other night on the phone. Well, the other day on the phone while I was working. And we had a great conversation. So thank you for agreeing to come on the show.
Hey, you're welcome. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, I mean, it was great. And you've had so many really neat encounters.
Yeah. Do you want me to tell you about some of them?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, it is your show. This show's not about me. This is your first time really talking about all this stuff, I'm assuming, correct? Without, like, family, friends?
Yeah, I've told my friends about some stuff, and they kind of look at me and with their head tilted, but that's fine. They, it's not like they don't believe me. They just don't know what to think about it. Like my wife doesn't know what to think about it.
Yeah.
She just wants, me to leave Sasquatch alone. They're their families, But my first one was probably like in 1975. I was like 21 years old, and I was working construction in South Florida, and at this place called Delray. They were building a lot of condos back in those days, and our crew got caught up. So Roger said, who lived in Davie, Florida, hey, we got a house to do, hang some doors or windows. I can't remember what we did back there, but they were building homes back in those days in the Orange Grove, right off State Road 84, which is called Alligator Alley.
Okay.
And so on my way down, driving on the turnpike, I hear on the radio that a skunk ape has ripped the head off of a calf and tore the stomach out of a horse.
Whoa.
So, and I thought, wow, this is in Davie. Okay. So when I got to Roger's house, I said, hey, man, you know what I just heard on the radio? He goes, yeah, everybody's phone in town is ringing off the wall. Everybody's talking about it. I said, oh, okay.
Okay, so this was
I
on the
said,
local
where?
radio?
Yeah, this is on 1975. It might have been AM, FM. I don't remember if my bug had FM radio. You know what I mean? But so I said, well, where's this house? He goes, it's about a half mile from that ranch. I went, oh, okay. Now I had read about Sasquatch before because I read those accounts that Ron Moorhead had, and this was earlier than that. When up in the Sierra Mountains, in California.
Yeah,
I
known
read
as the
about
Seer
that.
sounds.
So I had heard the term Bigfoot before, and down there in Florida, that's what they call Sasquatch. They call them skunk apes. And so we're at this house out in the middle of Orange Grove. There's orange trees in the front yard, orange trees in the backyard. I mean, it's right on the edge of Orange Grove. And but there's no roach coach going to pull up for lunch. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I said, well, I'm going to walk out back and get some oranges. I mean, and I just got these big navel oranges. They were bigger than a softball, and I got 3 or 4 of them sticky things. And all of a sudden I got this shock, like, I need to leave quickly. And this is in the daytime, about 12 o'clock, and I felt this presence, and it was overwhelming, and I said, okay. And then I had to find my way out of the grove because they grow orange trees in diagonally, you know what I mean? Because whatever the prevailing winds, for black prevailing winds. And so I found my way out and I walked back to the house and I said, hey man, something is out there. And they went, yeah, there's nothing out there, Billy. I said, okay, whatever, So it was probably like a year later. I think it was in 1977, the year before I moved to Texas.
Well, let's circle back to the Orange Grove encounter. So
okay,
you were in there. Okay, so I mean, first off, so on the radio station that you're listening to, they came across and said that a skunk ape came and ripped the head off a calf and gutted a horse.
It ripped the head off a calf and ripped the stomach out of a horse. And there were footprints everywhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, that's pretty wild, and right where I'm going,
Well,
and
what's cool to me about that is, like, my grandpa in Utah collected newspaper articles, through the 60s and 70s from the local paper of Bigfoot sightings. And it's really neat to have somebody else come on and say in 75, at the time my grandpa was collecting all this stuff, that it was on the radio, that people did talk more about this in a factual way versus, what we're watching on TV and how it's being made fun of. But so they came on the radio, they said this, footprints everywhere, and then you go into the Orange Grove and had to get out.
I got spooked, yeah. And I felt this thing, this presence, and it was overwhelming. It's like fear. You know what I mean?
Do you think it could have been infrasound?
Excuse me?
Infrasound. So, like, lions will use it, whales use it, elephants even use it. There was a case, I believe, in India to where this village was having a bunch of suicides, and what it was these elephants that were using infrasound to communicate with each other.
Oh,
and
the
so,
low frequency.
Yeah, the low frequency things where lions will use it to make their prey freeze, stuff like that. And in a lot of researchers, in a lot of encounters, describe almost what you just said as almost kind of an infrasound thing, to where it's scary. It'll scare you.
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
okay.
So that's a possibility. He may have been in there and was trying to get you to scare away.
Right. I did. I left. I didn't know if he had his family there. Who knows what was there. You know what I mean? He and his family might have been out there picking oranges. I don't know. You know? But so like I said, I went back, finished up the house, and I didn't remember going back in there after that. But then, like in '77, year before I moved out here, I was visiting a friend of mine in Delray, and I was on my motorcycle, and it was probably like midnight, and I don't know if it was December or January. It was really cool out. I was wearing a jacket, and I was headed west on Atlantic Boulevard towards 441. And you can look at these on the map. The agriculture is still out there on both sides of the road before you reach 441. I believe it is. And it was a full moon. I said, wow, this is nice. I stopped my bike, put my kickstand down, took my jacket off, put my helmet off, and just enjoying, because you could see almost a half an mile in any direction because the moon was so bright,
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, there's that terror again, And man, I put my jacket and my helmet on, and my bike wasn't easy to start, and I couldn't start it quick enough, and I got out of there. Okay, so
that's two possible infrasound encounters you had.
Excuse me?
I think, yeah. So it sounds to me like another infrasound encounter that you had.
Yeah, Ron Moorhead mentions that in one of his books about that really super low frequency that has an effect on people.
Yep. Absolutely.
And so in '78, I moved out here, and I met somebody when I was doing air conditioning work. He turned out to be a really good friend of mine, and he had property up in Calvert, which is between College Station and Waco, and he had like 75 acres up there. And he goes, "Yeah, you go up there and go hog hunting." I said, "Really?" And I just met him. He gave me the keys to his place. He goes, "Yeah, just check on my horses for me." I said, "Yeah, all right."
Well, that was really nice of him.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, he just passed away 2 years ago, man. I was devastated, man. He was been my friend for a long time.
That's horrible. I'm sorry about the loss of your friend.
Yeah, and so I took two friends of mine up there. I said, let's go kill some hogs. I was 26 years old,
right.
1980. So we went up there, and we camped. We had a little camp and stuff. Wayne didn't build a house yet, so I said, well, I'm going to go sleep in a tree all night, and I'm with my shotgun. So it was July 1980, and it was middle of summer, and I made some stirrup. I tied myself. I was up pretty high in the tree. I was probably up 15 foot in the tree, and I was sitting with a limb between my legs, and I made stirrup so my feet wouldn't fall asleep. But I tied myself to the tree and shouldered my shotgun, and I stayed out there all night. And I was kind of leaning against the rope, you know what I mean, because I was tired of sitting up,
Yeah.
And I was kind of dozing, and I was looking down, and a young Sasquatch was reaching for my feet, and I kind of looked at him, and I was in, kind of in and out of it, and I'm not believing what I'm seeing, and I just groaned, and it just took off. You know what I mean? I looked and it was gone. So when I got back to camp the next day, I said,
hold on. Sorry. Can you describe him? What he looked like?
Well, like I said, it was a full moon. It was, but I was in the woods, and what I could see was what I can remember. Now this is, man, this is 1980.
Yeah, do the best you can with what you can remember.
I could see the pale palms. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And I could see the white on his face, and his face was round, and it didn't look like a gorilla or a chimpanzee. It had more features of a human being, but it had a really broad nose. Yeah. But you could see the white forehead, you could see the white cheeks, under his eyes, and like I said, I'm kind of blinking my eyes because I'm dozing, and when I groaned, he took off, Must have been a young one, or he could have reached my feet, Yeah,
so he's reaching up to your feet is what he was doing. Do you think it's maybe trying to...
Yeah, he's kind of like, hey, man, hey, it's strange, you know what I mean? But now out there at that place in Calvert, there's a chicken farm out there, so Biggie's out there now.
Oh, yeah.
Everywhere in Texas, they have chicken farms. There are big footprints. There's a group up in the Lufkin area that goes out in Angelina Forest, and there's a chicken farm out there, and there's big footprints everywhere out there.
It's free food.
There's another lady that lives west of Garrison, lives by Camp Tonkawa. She said the Sasquatch out there picked fruit off her trees, and about 2 miles south of there, there's 3 big chicken farms. So wherever there's chicken farms, that's where you're going to find sausage. It's a free meal for them,
Yeah, it's a free meal. I mean, they don't have to worry about trying to hunt it or anything. Like my theory is down here in the South, I'm originally from Utah, so our deer hunting is different than deer hunting down here. and the guys in the stands, and every hunter I've talked to in Arkansas, I'll ask him, have you ever shot a deer and it bounced off into the woods and you follow the bloodline and there's nothing there? And every hunter's had at least one encounter that way. And I think that, as you put it, Biggie knows, where the stands are at. He knows when the season's at, and they know when to be ready for it. And that's all they have to do is they're in equal opportunity. Yeah, I mean, why struggle with a prey if someone's going to kill it for you?
They're intelligent creatures. They're not beasts.
No, I'm so fascinated with the juvenile that was trying to reach up and touch you. I mean, were you afraid? I mean, can you remember the feeling of it? I know it was a long time ago, but
that's why I groaned like I couldn't, like I was, oh, you know what I mean? I couldn't believe what I was seeing,
Yeah.
And it was. I got a friend of mine. I told both of those guys, and there's a lot of things that happen in your life, but there are some things that really stand out and you really remember. And my encounters with Sasquatch, I'll never forget them till my dying day.
Well, everybody's had an encounter with Bigfoot. That's how it is. I remember in '92 in the Uinta Basin, the Hellhole Basin, Hellhole Lake of the Uintas there in Utah. We found a handprint. I call it a paw print, a handprint in the ground, an impression. My mom found it jumping up and down, and that even still that. And I still have the pictures of that. That's from '92. Then my encounter that I had in Texas in '02. Same thing. It does leave a mark on you, and it's something that you don't forget, and you can revisit that. It's a really and for some folks it scars them to be terrified, and for other folks it opens up this whole door of fascination.
You're right.
Or like a really neat awakening, and it's because you just encounter something that's not supposed to exist. It's like finding
something we don't learn. It's something we don't learn about in school.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be like finding oil in New Hampshire. You know what I mean? Go out digging in your backyard in New Hampshire and there's oil. I mean, what do you do? So yeah, to me that's awesome. I love that. The fact that he was. Do you think he's reaching out to maybe try and get your attention, or maybe curious about you? Maybe.
So. Yeah, he was. He was a young one. I don't think the young ones are as timid, or I should say timid. I should say as cautious as like some of the older ones would be.
Yeah, they're like kids. Kids are curious.
Yeah.
That's really, Billy. That is awesome. I'm not gonna lie. When you told me a little bit about that last week on the phone, I was like, hold on, save it for the show. Save it for the show. And I'm just sitting here grinning from ear to ear.
And see, the thing about it is I was armed. I had a shotgun,
Yeah.
And apparently I think they're intelligent creatures. I think that they know if you have you intend to hurt them. You know what I mean? They, if they know you're not going to hurt them, they probably, will expose themselves or, just watch you for a while, But
they do say this though, that people who've had an encounter with them will continue to have encounters with them.
Yeah.
To where maybe the one that you had in '75, there in Orange Grove, maybe there's a little bit more to. Maybe it thought you saw it, and that's why through the Orange Grove was trying to scare you off, and then same thing in '76, and so this one here, there's some theories out there. Because I'm not an expert. I'll be the first one to admit I'm nowhere even remote close to a Bigfoot expert. I just love Bigfoot, and I love to theorize and discussing it. But there's some theories out there to say that once you've had an encounter, for some reason they know, and you're going to have more. It almost seems like you're awakened. Yeah.
They know that you're aware of them. Yeah.
Yeah, I did an interview with a guy who had an encounter in 2015 in Colorado with one, and he got as best of audio as he could, and I had it on the show, and I can't remember the name of the episode off the top of my head. Sorry, Thomas, I can't remember, but yeah, so Thomas had this encounter, tried to record it, and he was scared. He had the window halfway rolled down, trying to use this recorder on his phone from 2015, and we try to clean it up as best we could. And you can definitely tell that it's not a coyote in the background, and it does have a little bit of the Sierra sounds in there since we keep talking about Ron Moorhead. Then he comes to Arkansas. He's out here on the Air Force Base working, and has a giant rock thrown at him.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Yeah, no
so
kidding.
yeah, and I think that once we have these encounters, then yeah, you're going to continue to have encounters if you put yourself in that position to have them.
If you go out in the woods, yeah, he's going to be there.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's the truth. That is so neat, though, that the juvenile, that's the only one you saw. You stayed in the tree till the morning, or, I mean, did you go back to sleep that night, or, I mean, what happened?
I don't remember. Yeah, that was a long time ago. I remember that was a long time ago. I remember that happening. I don't remember if I dozed off or if I stayed awake. I probably stayed awake after that. I remember I didn't shoot nothing. It was nothing. No hogs came around. Probably because Biggie scared them off. You know?
Well, I will tell you, in your defense, so the encounter that I had in 2002, I do remember at one point in time where I felt like I just kind of gave up and just kind of sat there. And then the sun was there. I do not remember, in all honesty, is like really what happened, if we fell asleep or what took place. I know that when the moon came up, it seemed to get quiet. And I don't know whether or not we fell asleep after that or what took place. I do remember the sun, sunrise that morning. So I'm with you on that one. So other people were like, you can't remember? That'd be like,
Yeah.
it's when these things happen to you, it does create a traumatic experience, but not in a bad way. But the adrenaline boost and everything that you get can wear you out. So so I'm with you on that one. Nothing to remember it. I understand completely. So so that morning you got up.
I climbed down out of the tree, went back to camp, and I don't remember. I remember I had to do that, but I don't remember. I said, hey, what if I told those guys or not? I probably did. I think I told Mike, and Mike's still a friend of mine, and we've talked about it, from time to time after that. Mike was one of my. I've known Mike I've been in Texas 46 years. I've known him 45 of them.
Oh wow!
And he's still a pretty good friend. But
it's rare to have.
okay, now my next one was in 1990, and I was with a friend of mine, and he up in Texas. You got there's a lake called Sam Rayburn, and on the north side of the lake there's a bridge that goes across, and it goes to Broadus. There's a little town that there's all they had was a blinking light,
Yeah.
But just as you cross the bridge, if you take a left, you can go down. There's a bunch of lake houses down there. People, you can't buy water, you can't buy property on the lake in any of the man-made lakes in Texas, but you can buy property that kind of 100 feet away.
Okay.
So anyway, it was in the wintertime. I had my insulated coveralls on. I told Justin, I said, hey, I'm gonna go walk over there in the woods and see if I can scare something up, and I was healed. I mean, I had my 30 caliber carbine, my 9mm carbine, and my PT-92 Taurus,
Yeah.
So it was probably late. It was probably like 3:00 in the afternoon when I was walking over there, and so I walked. Man, I probably walked a half a mile off of the road, and I can't think of what road that is right now, but that's Angelina National Forest, and there are sightings up there. And so I walked onto this thing, I think a little creek, and I think it's called Indian Creek. And I waited, and I didn't see nothing. I'm looking around, and it started getting dark, and it was dark in the woods, darker in the woods, and like in late in the afternoon. So I said, man, I better walk out of here before I get turned around,
Yeah.
So I probably walked about 100 feet or so, and I felt this presence behind me. And I thought, man, I'm not turning around to see what this is. And I didn't know what was following, but I knew he was right behind me all the way, And even when I got back out to the road, I still didn't turn around and look back into the woods. But when I got down to the lake house, I told Justin, I said, hey, man, there's something out there in the woods, So then I find out later that just recently, the past couple of years, and I thought it was probably Sasquatch that was following me out of there,
No, I'm gonna let it bet.
But he wasn't afraid of me, even though I had all those guns on me. You know what I mean? He just, hey, there's that kid again.
Well, the funny part about it is that a lot of people think that if you go looking for Bigfoot, you shouldn't be armed because they know the difference. And I don't think I think to them it doesn't matter. There's lots of accounts of people taking shots at Bigfoot. knowing, when you shoot, you're going to see the flinch and the hit and the round impact, and stating, either they missed or made impact, and it did nothing to it, and then it fled, to where I think it'd be really, really hard for us, unless we have a large caliber, to actually take it down. So I don't think they're too much threatened by us at all. They could probably, to quote, Han Solo from Star Wars, don't pull us apart limb by limb if they wanted to.
Yeah, there's a element or a component about those creatures that is people. Even Ron Moorhead said that he heard him stomping outside the shelter. He opened the door and it wasn't there.
Yep.
And then you see these TV shows where they said, "Man, he disappeared right in front of me." What's up with that?
See, I had that happen to me. It walked right up on me, and where it should have been at, I turned the flashlight on, it wasn't there, and immediately to my right in this thicket, something like bolted, and it's. I mean, to me, I couldn't get my head wrapped around because it should have been there. When I turned my flashlight on, it should have been there. There's no way it shouldn't have been. And that's what got me thinking about whether cloaking or anything like that at all. But, I mean, who knows? I mean...
Yeah, I don't know about that Star Trek jargon, you know what I mean, with the cloaking, I don't know.
Well, the way I look at it is, if an octopus can go ahead and do it in the ocean, and the thing about it is, so when it comes to the cloaking aspect, so I don't think they can, like, disappear, but I do think that maybe they've adapted enough to where they can camouflage a lot easier than, say, anything else can. And that's why we are able to miss them, and we are able to see them moving, and all of a sudden they do disappear. I can't remember. I think it was the Finding Bigfoot show like a year or two ago, and they were actually watching it on thermals, I believe, and it just suddenly disappeared off a thermal, watching it walk. And where there's nothing for it to go behind. You can just see it fade away. And, with the whole cloaking, and I think it's possible maybe to be able to blend in. I mean, nature does it all the time. Insects do it, other creatures do it. And I use the octopus a lot because I just love the way I love octopus. But how it can blend in and what it does. And to maybe Biggie can do that. Maybe they're able to blend in easier. They have a chemical that goes along with their fur to where it's able to, reflect or retract light enough to be able to make them blend in.
Yeah, that's a possibility. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just a theory. And again, that's the cool thing about this show, though.
Chameleons change color too.
Yep, chameleons do it. So why couldn't, Bigfoot?
I got these little anoles on my porch, and they turn color all the time.
Yeah, see? So why can't Bigfoot? Because, there was a show out there, and this is a while ago. I was watching it, me and my ex, and it was like Paranormal Caught on Camera or something. And they did this episode of the guy was like, it was hunting in the woods, and it was snowing, and he had all of a sudden he pulls his camera, starts recording. He sees Bigfoot, and I remember looking at it, going, okay, I can kind of. Yeah, it was an outline, and how it was moving with the trees, and once you seen it, it stood out. And I remember looking at my ex, going, "Well, do you see him? He's right there." And she goes, "No, I just see the trees." And I had to pause it and show her the outline, unpause it. Then you could see to where he was moving with the trees, but not quite fully moving with the trees, to where the hunter was able to identify it and go, nope, I got to back out. Like he was watching. So he moves out of there, and then he activates the camera again and goes, look, here's another one. And they show another one, and this one stood out a little bit more. But if you weren't really paying attention, you're not going to see it, if that makes sense. And I think in a lot of cases, we're that way. If we're not looking for it, we're not going to see it. Or sometimes it has to just pop out there at us. And I think Biggie's been doing this for so long that he knows how to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, Biggie may be old. Well, it's probably not older than trees. I mean, sharks are older than trees, but I mean, so Biggie's probably about as old as trees. That's how I look at it.
It's their habitat. They know they would learn how to blend in, to stop moving when they know they're being watched, and they'll think somebody's just think it's a bush,
Yep.
Unless they can make out the outline. I mean, that's the trick about walking up on animals too. You know, when you go hunting, you take 3 steps and you wait about 15 seconds. You take 3 more steps, and I walked up on a pack of coyotes one time, and they scared me to death. I mean, I stepped on a branch,
It
and they were
scared me
probably 10
too.
feet away from me. They didn't even hear me till I stepped on that branch, and that was up there in Calvert. And man, I mean, they were so loud, it was in my ear. I thought, man, I'm gonna do one of them's gonna bump into me, you know. But yeah, I was walking through those trees, like back out to where I saw, you know, I was sitting in that tree that one night. I was walking out there and to go deer hunting, and I mean, yeah, you walk, you know, if you walk stealthy enough like that, you know, you can walk up on anything,
Yep.
you know. And that this is okay. Let me tell you about this other time. This
Okay,
happened
go
in
ahead.
1997. I believe it was the year that Princess Diana got killed in that car accident.
I think, yeah, I believe
Because I
so.
was on it. I used to go. My wife and I and my daughters, we all used to train in Taekwondo, and we all got our black belts together. And I found out about these martial arts camps that were going on up there in Lake Livingston area, Cold Spring and Wolf Creek Park. You know, and so I used to always like to compete on the color belt teams because it was more fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And even though I was black belt, I used to like competing, you know, against the other team. And so I had a survival camp out earlier that year, and the black belts got all turned around, and I told them on the radio, and they just pulled me out of the field. They said, "No more fun for you. You got to start working for us," you know. I said, "Okay."
Okay.
So the next camp we had was up there in Cold Spring, on at the Double Lake Park, and Lone Star Trail runs right through Double Lake Park. And if you want to see Biggie, you go hike the Lone Star Trail. Everybody in East Texas knows that, you know. And so I thought, well, okay, I'm going to be, you know, in the field this time. I'm going to make it as realistic as I can. So I took all my predator calls and put them in my pocket, you know. And earlier that year, when we had the survival camp out, there was a place out there in the woods, about 100 foot off the Lone Star Trail, where I spent the night. I slept that night. So that was like a designated area spot. You know, everybody, if I said I'm here, they know where I'm at, you know. So I'm out there, and this is about 11 o'clock. Excuse me?
I sneezed. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's okay. This is about 11 o'clock at night on Halloween weekend or Halloween sometime around there. You know, we had Halloween camp. And so we have these 2 teams. You got red team, blue team. You spread out the red team. Got one by one. The blue team comes through. They do a little technique, you know, and they move on to the next one. They have day trails and night trails. So this is
Was
night
it
trails.
designated by their belt colors? Or
No. It's
Okay.
just a red team and a blue team. There could have been a green team. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay.
Just red team, blue team. You know. And no, they were all different colored belts, even their black belts. And like I said, I was a black belt, and I competed on one of the teams. You know, because I thought it was fun.
That would be fun, actually.
Excuse me?
Yeah, it would be fun. That really would be.
Well, my parents met here at Lackland, and they got married here in Texas. And I was born in Topeka, Kansas, on Forbes Air Force Base. And both my parents were from New York, so we lived up there for about 11 years. And my dad was with IBM, and he was with the space program. We moved to Cocoa Beach in 1966, and I went to high school. I went to junior. I finished my elementary school in Cape Canaveral, and then I went to junior high in Rockledge, Florida, where that's Central Florida, and then I went to high school in Boca, and that's South Florida. And I moved here in '78 when I was 24 years old. So I've been here longer than anyone. I only lived 12 years in Florida and 11 years in New York State. I've been here for 46 years, you know. So I mean, I don't know. I'm not from anywhere, you know.
No, you're right. So I'm looking at Okay, so the Lone Star Trail, that's in
Yes,
Texas, right?
correct. It's in East Texas. It goes through the Sam Houston National Forest.
Okay, guys, there's one here in Arkansas too. There's a Lone Star Trail in Arkansas.
Oh, okay.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Okay, yeah, I was like, I gotta figure this. Yeah, I was trying to Google this up real quick and see where it was at.
If you get on eBay, you can find a book that because I even have one. About
Okay, yeah, because I
hiking the Lone
Googled,
Star
yeah,
Trail.
I text my producer to do the same thing. I guess it's about 92 miles.
I think it's like more like 128.
Okay, yeah, he just said 92.4 miles.
Well, what it is there's highways to go in between them, and there are people that will pick you up for a fee, and it will pick you up from one trailhead and take you to another trailhead. And you walk that trailhead, you walk through there and you do another trailhead. And there's people that'll pick you up and take you go through the trail. There's people that keep up keep up the Lone Star Trail. You know, they rebuild the bridges and stuff like that, and keep the path clear.
That sounds like a week-long plus trip. That'd be kind of fun to do.
And up there by Lake Stubblefield, up there, the northern part of Lake Conroe, there's an area they call the Horseshoe, and they discourage people from going in that area.
Why is that? 'Cause now I want to go.
Who knows? You know, I mean, I ain't been there yet. My wife won't go up there with me. She don't want me to do that, but there's something in there. You know, and there are. If you go on Tubi and you watch some of these videos about Sasquatch, and there's people that say, you want to see Sasquatch, go hike the Lone Star Trail. You know, and that's where I was in Double Lake Park. The Lone Star Trail goes right through Double Lake Park. It's right there. It's right next to Cold Spring, Texas.
Okay.
Okay. And so
I'm actually writing this stuff down as they're talking to me, by the way.
Okay. All these places. Okay.
Yep.
And so I'm out in the woods, and I'm blowing in my predator calls. Okay. And I'm trying to make it as realistic as I can with
Well, so since you're doing the predator calls, what kind of predators are out there besides Biggie?
Oh man, there's no bear down this far south, but I think there's bear in northern up there around maybe Angelina National Forest that are migrating over from Louisiana.
Yeah.
You know, and there might be some migrating down through Texarkana from Oklahoma. You know, but there's I tell you what, man, there are things in the big thicket and in East Texas that you won't believe. You have to talk to other people that have experienced it. Like a friend of mine is from Hawkins, Texas, and he will tell you some stuff. He's got some stories to tell too, where he ran into Bigfoot or Biggie on a trail going along the Sabine River with his cousin. And he came running out and looked right at him. He goes, "Billy, it had a man's face." You know, I said, "I believe you, man." You know,
that's awesome. That really is. That's awesome.
His name's Brandon. He's a pretty good. We talk about once a month about stuff. You know, but
one of my best friends from the Army lives down in San Antonio. So, and we talk about once or twice a month about this weird stuff. Yeah. He's been on the show a few times.
I talked to this friend of mine, Mac. He was at that camp with me, and I said, "Mac, do you remember when this happened?" I just talked to him a couple months ago. Yeah, he goes, "Yeah, I remember," because he and I probably standing next to each other. So when I was out in the woods blowing in my predator calls, I was probably doing it for about 20 minutes, maybe longer, trying to make it as realistic as possible for all the color belts. You know what I mean? To hear noises in the woods, you know.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I felt this presence, and it scared me, and I put my calls down. This is probably going on midnight now. I got on my radio and I go, "Hey, I'm not by," and all the black belts carry radios. I said, "Hey, I'm not by myself out here anymore." And they go, "Where are you?" I said, "I'm about 50 feet from my campsite." And they talked about it for a few seconds. They go, "Okay, Mr. Decker, call off all nighttime activity." So I walked back. So I got up. I didn't turn around and look behind me. And I walked straight back out to the trail where the color belts were. And I said, "Hey, stay right here. We're shutting things down." And I went and got this other guy, Ruben. He's another black belt. And he goes, "What's going on? What's going on?" I said, "Man, I said, something's out here. We need to shut things down." We gathered everybody back up. We started walking north towards it. And if you look on the map, you'll see that there's a bridge. You know what I mean?
Okay.
We walked straight back up to, there was a bridge, and the lake is on the west side of this bridge. And they're going, "Mr. Decker, what's out there? What's out there? What's out?" I said, "Man, something is out there in the woods." And I said, "We just need to blow it off for tonight." Now, some of these guys, one guy's an ex-combat corpsman from the Navy. He's a deputy constable. Another one's a deputy constable. I'm maintenance hand, you know, at a place that made catalyst,
yeah.
You know. But I mean, so we have some guys that are out there that are armed. You know what I mean? So Stu and Max, this friend of mine's son, And Ray Williams, who was a master in he's a master in Aikido and Judo. They they walk straight south again, but they took a left and started walking down the Lone Star Trail. So there's about 20 people standing around me. We're standing on this bridge, and they go, "What's going on? What's going on?" And no sooner did, and this is, like I said, this is another full moon. Ray and Stu just disappear into the woods, and we hear this crashing noise coming through the woods, coming towards us, like to the east of us, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, loud crashing. This is like midnight now. And then it turned and it went east, like into the woods. And everybody's looking at each other going, "What was that?" And about 20 people heard it, you know? And I said, "What did it sound like?" They go, "Man, it sounded like an elephant. It sounded like a rhinoceros." And I go, "How many feet were stomping on the ground?" They go, 2. I said, "Well, it sounded like 2. I said, "Okay. You just had your first Sasquatch experience." "You mean Bigfoot?" I went, "Call him whatever you want," you know? So, and that's what I called Mac, because I had to think in my head, did I imagine all this? So I called Mac a couple months ago, and he was still in Alabama. I said, "Mac, do you remember when this happened?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, I was standing right there with you." I said, "Okay," you know. So that was my last encounter.
So that sounds like another. That sounds like another. That sounds like another infrasound and sounding. I mean, besides, with stomping as well.
Right.
They're trying to get you to get out.
The woods, there were branches snapping. You wouldn't believe it. The crashing noise, you know. And I posted this on a post in East Texas Bigfoots or whatever it was. You know, this thing. That's how you found me. It was I got on that Ozark one or the Bigfoot Cartel, whatever that one was. And this friend of mine that he and I talk about once a month, his name Brandon, he said he knows exactly what the sound I described. He said, because and then we became friends. You know, we call each other and talk about it. And he said because he was up there hunting in Sabine River, they were hog hunting, and Biggie came right, he was to the right of him. They come crashing through the woods, you know, some branches snapping, stomping noises. You know, he said Biggie come out on a 3-point stance and stood up, looked at him. His hair was sticking straight up, you know, and then he looked at him, and his hair kind of laid down, you know, like if you have goosebumps, you know, your hair sticks straight up, you know. Biggie's hair was sticking straight up, and he kind of laid down. He said, Biggie, he looked at those rifles, and his whole demeanor changed, with a scowl on his face. He said they dropped their guns and ran, you know, and so just past year, Brendan said he went back out there with his cousin who was with him. And they took his boys, and they went out there fishing all night. And I said, "Would you hear anything?" He said, "We heard some tree knocks." I said, "Okay." I said, "They're still around." And Sabine River's a hot spot up in East Texas, around Hawkins, you know.
Sounds like a bluff charge.
Huh?
Sounds like a bluff charge. Sounds like that they could have been in an area to where it was Biggie's territory, and he was trying to scare him off, to where there's lots of encounters of Bigfoot doing a bluff charge, crashing through the trees, making lots of noise, stomping.
Right.
And it could be something to scare him off. And it came out and saw him. I was like, oh, it's just you guys. You know what I mean?
Right.
But to where I think they'll do that. They'll try and scare us off. Like, to where this is where like the animal side of them is, the nature side, because there's so many different versions of.
Oh, they probably want to protect their young,
Which is another good.
They don't want anybody getting accidentally shot.
You could possibly be right.
He said, Brandon said, Billy, he knows what guns are. He said, he looked at our faces and he looked down and looked at our guns. So he knew what guns were.
See, that's not the first time I've heard that either, though. I've heard where they'll look and recognize that there are firearms, but I also think that they know that it's not going to harm them. Maybe the younger ones, maybe they haven't developed enough. I don't know. Maybe there's something that has to do with their fur, maybe their muscle, something to where as they get older, it toughens them up. To where it's like, the rhinoceros horn is made out of, hair. I can't remember what it's called now, the scientific name for it. But maybe there's something aspect to Bigfoot that way. Maybe they're, that's, what is that called? I'm going to Google it real quick. But where the hair hardens really, really tight. And... Okay. Let's see here. I'm trying to think of what it is called. As soon as I say it, you're going to know what I'm talking about. I know you are. This is, see, look how smart we are. My cat So that strange noise is what my cat is rubbing. Yeah, made of hair. Let's see here. Yes, compressed. Yeah, rhino horns are made of compressed hair. Yeah, keratin proteins. So maybe they have a lot of keratin proteins in their fur, and that's what is you know in their, which could harden them up and make them almost bulletproof.
Yeah, and protect them from the elements or branches or whatever, the
Yep.
cold, yeah.
So there's a theory out. So that's a possible theory, maybe. You know. So that's why they know the guns, and that's the reason why they know that the older, the bigger they get, we're not going to harm them really, but the younger ones, possibly. And so the bluff charges could be maybe to protect them.
Hmm.
That's a good
Yeah,
idea.
I went to a Bigfoot convention up there in Jefferson one time, and uh, this one guy had a video, and I videoed it. That was before this is like around the year 2000, before they discouraged people from bringing their camcorders up there. And this guy had a video. He went to Bluff Creek. He was an athlete, college athlete or something, and he and his friend went up to Bluff Creek, and they took camcorders with them. They were climbing this hill, and they found this family of Sasquatch, and the big one was gray, and looked out from behind a tree, and both those guys shuddered and almost soiled themselves, and they started crying. He said, I'm a big guy, but I'm gonna tell you right now, man. He says, I almost soiled myself, and I started crying.
I think that's an
And they went,
infrasound attack.
huh?
I think that's infrasound again.
Yeah, and he said that. Well, he showed that video, and I taped it, and I got it someplace, and I don't know where it's at. I used to go to those Bigfoot conventions, and still they started charging money, and it seems like it turned into a circus. And the people that go, like you and me, yeah, they want to talk to people, like experiences, but the rest of it is just showboat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Some of those people that they have talking probably never had any experience like something that happened to them like I did me. They just go out and looking for them, and I see some of these guys on TV, and I go, oh man,
Well,
But
so
anyway,
my theory is so the Bigfoot world is exploded. I mean, for a couple of years now, and
yeah,
remember before? I mean, you had like Monster Quest and stuff like that to get a Bigfoot show, and then all of a sudden it exploded onto the scene. And it's everywhere. There's a TV series here, there's a TV show there's a documentary here, and there's so much of it out there now. And there's so many conferences, there's so many quote unquote experts, and I use my fingers in parentheses to use the word experts because nobody's an expert on Bigfoot. People can be an expert on their area. People can be an expert, there that you live in and the encounters that you're having, but you're not an actual expert on the Bigfoot. You know what I mean?
right, because they still don't know what he is.
No, exactly. So until we have one laid out and we're able to, and I hate saying that, but until we have one in our garage somewhere, we're not going to really know.
You know something? I watched a video on YouTube of a guy called Hiker Dave, and he's from New England someplace. I don't know, New Hampshire, Vermont, someplace like that.
Right.
And he's got a pretty good video on there about what happened at Mount St. Helen when it blew up. He said there were Sasquatch bodies everywhere, because that's not too close, not too far from where Ape Canyon is. You remember what happened?
Yeah, exactly. Canyon? Ape Canyon. Yeah, that's where the miners.
In 1924. Yeah, right. So that whole, and he said there were bodies everywhere. And now your audience can take this with a grain of salt because I don't doubt that it happened. Anything is possible when it comes to Sasquatch. He said the bodies were trying to mend themselves, and they were dead, and these creatures were trying to heal themselves, and they're like, for no better, like Doctor Who. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he said they were dead, and that these were what report he was reading, and that they were hauling Sasquatch bodies off with helicopters, And I don't think that the government don't know about it, man. They know. And think about it, they're people. What's the people going to do when they find out there's a hole at the North Pole, and Sasquatch is just another person? You know what I mean? Different kind of people, but they're people.
It's true.
You know?
Well, I think the
What?
Smithsonian's involved with it more than anything. I think the Smithsonian's hiding a lot from us,
Yeah.
and there's so many reports of the Smithsonian stepping in and laying claim to certain areas, and all of a sudden this evidence disappears.
Right.
So I think the Smithsonian's part of that. And to where in 1980, it was 81 when St. Helens blew. It was, yeah. I mean, I never even thought of Bigfoot being involved with that. But yeah, you gave me some notes now on that one. I'm going to research that one up.
Yeah. Look up Hiker Dave. Look up Hiker Dave and look at his Sasquatch Mount St. Helen thing.
I'm going to have to. I'm going to do some researching as well on
Yeah.
the St. Helens and the Bigfoot thing and finding out what other reports are out there. See if any other eyewitness made a report in the local newspapers or something along those lines, because the Smithsonian and the government will step in. And of course, there's people out there to say that the government's not going to acknowledge them because then it changes logging rights, it changes this, it changes that. And, I don't know, on why they won't do it. You know what I mean?
Right. There's a group in East Texas, up around the Lufkin area. I'm on their, I'm one of their members on the Facebook.
Yeah.
But they have these what's called nighttime vigils, and I don't know how many people show up, 15, 20 people, and they, I don't think it's a beer drinking party. I think they're really just camping out looking for Sasquatch,
Right.
And he said that one time they posted one time that there was somebody in a car that didn't have any somebody in a tree, okay, that was looking at them with a pair of Coast Guard field glasses. You know what I mean? The kind that are about 14 inches long. That you can see you can see the curvature of the earth with.
Yep.
And that was watching these people, and he was up in a tree. And all of a sudden one person spotted him, and everybody started looking at him through their field glasses. And I guess when he felt, they see I'm here, he got in his car and he took off. You know what I mean? These guys, no, they post when they're going to have these vigils. So I think that there are people, I think that the government sends people out and say, hey, keep an eye on these guys. You know what I mean? In case they, our government knows there's more going on in our government than we're aware of. We can talk about that some other time.
Oh yeah, that's a whole other episode.
Yeah.
Because I keep going on and on about that right there. But I think to where with the National Forest, I think that being with the rangers out there and such, I know that. Well, I don't know, but I believe that they know and they're keeping an eye and they're going to report because. Most people, let's be honest with you, if you're out in the woods and you encounter a Bigfoot or you encounter something, like that, or you find something like that, you're going to go to the park ranger. You're going to go to the forest rangers. You're going to go to everybody except, other people other than like, hey, you're calling up your buddy, say, check this out. And so they're going to swoop in. And then the next thing you know, when you're going to the newspaper and talking about it, they're like, oh, so you found, where's the evidence? Where's the proof? Oh, well, the Rangers took it, or the Smithsonian took it, or the government took it. Or if you want to leave other people, aliens took it. I mean, or
I used to get on this lease. I never hunted it, but I used to get on it, and this is in the Big Thicket over by Bastion, Texas, and it's part of the Big Thicket. And a guy named what's his name? He used to hunt it for Bigfoot all his life there, and in Big Thicket. His name's Rob Riggs. He passed away, but he was from Sour Lake. I believe he was from Sour Lake. And so anyway, I used to get on this called the Lance Rosier unit, and it's part of the Big Thicket. And you go to the high school. Now you just go up to the there's a place that you go now, but you used to have to go to this high school and wait in line. There's about 150 people all waiting to get their permit, And so I was talking to these guys. And they took me out there, and I go, hey, man, is Bigfoot out here in the Big Thicket? And, man, they didn't want to talk about it. And they looked at each other, and they said, man, we don't want to talk about that. And, I mean, shut me down. You know what I mean? And I went, okay. I figured they didn't know me well enough, or they might have thought that I'd ridicule them or something, but they didn't want to talk about it, And Rob Riggs he looked for Bigfoot. He passed away, I don't know how many years ago. But he's got like 3 books out on Sasquatch in the big thicket out there. But Yeah, they shut me down. They didn't want to talk about it.
Yeah, I learned
So
real quick, if you go and talk to them about it, for some reason they're either A, gonna laugh you off, like, oh no, there's no such thing as Bigfoot. No, there's no such thing. No, there's nothing out here. No, you're fine. You're fine. You're fine. But if you
you're
look
in
at all the
Arkansas.
missing people's cases, all the 411 cases and everything else like that in these national forests and stuff like that, I mean, there's something more to it than that. I also think it ties into a cave system. I think it ties into, I think Bigfoot uses. I think there's more caves than we realize. To where I don't think I crack jokes all the time with everybody. I say the world's not flat, but it is hollow. And I think there's something to this hollow earth theory with Bigfoot being on the move in the national forest areas, and why some of these areas are actually national forests and that are protected lands for a reason. They could tie into like government conspiracies and everything, but that's a whole nother show in itself as well.
You want to talk about Arkansas?
Yeah, let's talk about Arkansas. You got some? Yeah, I'm here in Arkansas. Let's talk about Arkansas.
Right. I wonder when we're going to get around to it. Okay. My mother-in-law lives in eastern Arkansas, on Crowley Ridge, and Crowley Ridge they think was formed back when the earthquake happened in New Madrid back in 1811. It's like a small mountain range. I don't know if it's like 120 miles long, something like that.
Yeah.
It goes from well, it's longer than that. It has to be longer than that. But it goes up just about the whole length of eastern Arkansas, and you have the plains on both sides, which is all farmland. You know that. You're around there. But now, where she lives is across the street, across the road, from Village Creek State Park, and I think that's like a 6,000-acre park, if I remember correctly. Maybe not quite that big. My father-in-law was instrumental in helping build that park, and
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and so she's got 96 acres out there full of trees, and right across from the park. The gate from her mailbox to the entrance of the park is probably less than a half a mile. But anyway, for about the past 25, 30 years, ever since my father-in-law passed away, I do not like going outside at night, and I get this dreaded feeling, and I won't, the shop is about 100 feet away. I won't even walk down to the shop. You know what I mean? And so the last time I was, and this has been going on for 25, maybe 30 years. Okay. And now, before my father-in-law was alive, I used to go out there to the bottoms and with my predator callers, and I want to call in some coyotes. And I have. I didn't shoot any, but I used to call them in.
Yeah.
So that was when he was alive. So I think he got killed in 93. So, but ever since then, I won't go out at night, and it's a great place. I love to go bass fishing with my mother-in-law. She's got a 1 acre pond full of bass. And so last year when I was out there, I asked my nephew, who lived out there when my mother-in-law was in Virginia, I said, hey, he's sensitive to things too. He doesn't like going out there at night either.
Okay.
With his mother to see his grandmother.
Yeah.
And I said, hey man, you lived out here for a while. Have you felt anything out here? And he looked at me and he goes, Michael has seen the creature, just like that.
Like he already knew what you were talking about.
I didn't say anything about Biggie, nothing. I said, have you felt anything? You seen anything out here? He goes, Michael has seen the creature. So I got in touch with Michael, and Michael was my fishing buddy for a long time. He's like 36, so when he was like 16, they lived there on my mother-in-law's place in another house, and he was walking. He was daytime, and this is on Crowley Ridge now, and he's walking along the fence line, following this deer, walking just as quietly as he can, to try to sneak. He didn't have a rifle or nothing. He was just checking it out,
Yeah.
And he walked up on 3 Sasquatch, a male that was like 8 foot tall. This is in the daytime now. And if you walk down into the bottoms with you got these trees that are 70 and 80 foot tall, it's a big air conditioned like auditorium almost. You know what I mean? You can see a couple 100 feet and it's nice and cool down there. You know what I mean? So he walked up on this family of Sasquatch, a male over 8 feet tall, a female a little over 6 feet tall, and a young male that was almost as tall as a female. And he goes, Uncle Billy, he goes, the thing that I remember most is they had red eyes. I said, "What'd you do?" He said, "I turned around and ran back up the hill." I said, "Okay."
So when you
So
say
I
red
put
eyes, were they like glowing eyes or just
red.
red?
I mean, that red, like, I don't know if bloodshot or they just something about their eyes, that's. I've read that in a couple of books too, about them having red eyes, and some people have tried to give an explanation for it. That it's because they can see well in the dark, and it's I forget. I think Ron Moorhead gave an explanation for it in the Quantum Bigfoot, and but so anyway, I said, "Okay, Michael, take me down to this place." So we went back down to it, and I got pictures on my phone where he was, and it shows him pulling branches out of the way. So I posted that on Ozark Bigfoot. And I said, "Hey, I know this ain't the Ozarks. My mother-in-law, blah, blah, blah. You should live in East Arkansas and Crowley Ridge." Well, man, I got about 25 likes on it. And then half a dozen people wanted me to elaborate. So this one guy goes, he's from Searcy, and that's not too far from you, is it?
Cersei's is actually about an hour away, maybe, from
Is it
where I'm
that
at.
far?
Yep,
Okay, because
just
it's
maybe
about
an
60
hour.
miles from us.
45 minutes.
Yeah, it's about 60 miles west of where my mother-in-law lives. So he said he used to go camping in the park, and he saw tree bends in there. I said, "Really?" And so he and I messaged back and forth like you and I did at first. And so we're fixing to go out there for my mother-in-law's 91st birthday next month, and I'm going to get up with him, and I'm saying, "Hey, man, take me up to the park and show me where you're talking. Show me these tree bends." Now, earlier last year, both my daughters and my grandkids and my son-in-law, they wouldn't stayed in the park. They hiked all the trails, and they know I'm a Sasquatch believer, but they didn't see. Apparently, they didn't know what tree bends were. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And but anyway, since we've talked the other day, I looked at this other post that was posted on my birthday last week, and
Oh, well,
this
happy late
guy.
birthday.
Thank you, man. I turned 70.
Woo!
Golly, man.
That's a milestone. You don't even sound like you're 70, by the way. You don't. You sound like you're closer to
I
my
read a lot
age.
of books. I don't have any vices. I exercise. I'm retired, but I still try to stay active. I got my hobbies. But anyway, now this one guy posted. He said that he lives on the eastern side of Crowley Ridge, and in Arkansas, you can drive right through Crowley Ridge.
Yeah.
64. You know what I mean? It's like cut right through the ridge. And so he said he lived in this area northeast of Arkansas, and I looked northeast. I said, my nephew lives out there. So I contacted him. I said, "Hey, was your sighting around?" And he told first he said it was in 2021, and I said, "Was your sighting around this road?" He goes, "No, I live south of that road, and it's a big old clump of woods right there." I said, "Okay." So I told my nephew. I said, "Hey," I sent him a message. "Hey, this happened in 2021." And but anyway, so I'm gonna see if my wife wants to go out there around Christmas time between Christmas and New Year's. I'm gonna go do some wilderness camping in the park.
Well, if you come out this way, give me a shout. I'll link up with you.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah, because it's not
okay.
too
My
far
wife
from
wants
me
to-
at all. I mean, where I'm at in Arkansas, everything is the most 3 hours away.
Yeah, you just if you're outside Little Rock, there's some road that goes right into Wynn. It goes through Knob Hill.
Yep.
Yeah, and goes west of Knob Hill, and
I used to be
But hey, you
I
know
used to
what?
be a
I'm gonna
manager
do-
for Schwann's, and I think I've been to almost every small town in Arkansas.
have you-
Yeah, that's why I have to stop and think. Okay, I have to put the mask on now. Where was that town at? Where was that one at? So because I had to work at Jonesboro quite a bit, which took me down there to Wynn, Forest City area as well.
Right.
Yeah, down there in Camden, going all the way across the state, up north into the Fayetteville area, obviously for Schwann's. My daughter lived up there for a little bit. Here in Central Arkansas, I've been down to, Fort Smith. I'm trying to think of some of the other. Texarkana is probably the one area I really don't know.
like
Other
I
than
said
driving through it
earlier,
to go to Texas.
You know, like what I said earlier about the chicken farms. I
Yeah.
was looking to see if there's any chicken farms around my mother-in-law's place. There is one in Colt. You know where Colt is?
Nope, but I'm writing it down right now.
If you go to Forest City and you take one north, like you're going into Wynn, I think it's the second light you come to. These lights are spread out. There's probably 3 or 4 miles between each one. Is Colt, and off to the left, there's a chicken farm out there. And if you look to the right, the ridge is only about a mile away. You know what I mean? So I'm thinking about
Billy,
go out there next month.
you may be onto something about chicken farms and Bigfoot.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start researching into that. I get the notes written right here as well.
Yeah, the largest chicken farm in Texas is up there around Garrison, and that's where that Melba Ketchum is from. She's from either Garrison or Garrison or Timpson area. You know.
Well, that makes sense of why she was doing what she was doing. Then
Yeah.
maybe she had an encounter.
Yeah, there's a. Last time I was there, I listened to those tapes or the CDs from, the Voices in the Wilderness, the ones from Ron Moorhead.
Okay, yeah.
And one of them sounded like a slide whistle. So I went to a Guitar Center and bought me a slide whistle, So,
Yeah.
because I know all those other Predator calls works, I mean, he'd come in there right on me. Probably could have touched me on the shoulder,
You've been saying, "Hey, what's up?"
At the Double Lake Park, I mean, it was intense. That's a really intense feeling, And it's like you said, it's that low frequency probably,
That's why I think, from when we talked the other day about it, and I've been, thinking about it all weekend and such, honestly, like, okay, so sensing, that's not, wait a minute. So when you're able to sense, what I think maybe is that you may be more sensitive to the infrasound than most people are. So this may be something that they're automatically emitting, and they can kind of control it, fine tune it, and direct it and stuff. But there may be something about you, where you're able to pick up on it more. You know how some people are colder in a room than other people. Maybe you're able to pick up on their infrasound, and that's where you're able to sense them at. So you're able to know they're in the area because you can pick up on that vibe right there, that frequency they're putting off.
Yeah.
You may be sensitive to that. That's what you may be doing. And I'm just spitballing, throwing a theory out there. But that's have you thought of that yet? Or
well, I tell you what, from working in the chemical plants and refineries for the past 40 years, I've lost a lot of my hearing. The high frequencies, but the low frequencies. If I hear those kids with those cars, you know what I mean?
Yep.
If they're half a mile away, I can hear that buzz, buzzing. You know what I mean? So, I mean, you're right. There's something to that. It's possible.
I think it may be a natural thing for you, to be honest with you. I think you were probably able to hear those lower frequencies before before you lost the higher ones. And now you lost the higher ones, you're probably able to hear the lower ones more.
Yeah, because when I was 21 and out there in Davie, that was, I picked up on something then,
Yeah, exactly. And it's where that's the theory that I have is you may be able to, pick up on these things.
Because last time I was at my mother-in-law's, I said, man, I told Tim, I said, I got to get over this, man. I got to get past this,
Yeah.
I took my flashlight, I went down, I got in the shop, I closed the door and I turned the light off and I turned my flashlight off and sat in the middle of the shop in the pitch black. I said, all right, here I am. What's next? And nothing happened. You know what I mean? I just had to get past that.
Well,
fear,
so look into it for yourself and see maybe that's it. So maybe when you picked up on this, maybe you know that they're in the area. They may not. But the sad part is, though, it is a feeling of dread. It is a feeling of fear.
Yeah.
That you may be picking up on, and I don't know how to get over that one. I mean, that's that's the trigger of fight or flight.
Ron Moorhead said that in the last his last book I'm reading. I'm on his third book right now. He was talking about those low frequencies like that, and he said that if you can get over your fear, you'll be all right. You know what I mean? Maybe he's experienced that too. I don't know.
Well, I bet he has. I bet if you look at a lot of these old researchers, listen to these old encounters, and my favorite quote is people go, "Well, how come you didn't get a picture? How come you didn't do this? How come you didn't do that?" And it's because of the infrasound. it kicks in, it triggers a fight or flight, and those some people are able to get that picture. But I think the reason why they're blob squatch pictures is because they're nervous, because they are fighting that fear, they are fighting the infrasound of what's taking place with them. Again, these two elephants were communicating through infrasound over in India or Africa, and a village happened to be in the way, and the suicide rate in this village was astronomical on people. People were just killing themselves.
I'm going to have to read up on that. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating. So, and the infrasound thing, and it's, I've been, hearing more and more and more about it. And so, digging more and more into it. Because when it comes to Bigfoot, I'm really open-minded. I'm open-minded to the woo factor of it. I'm open-minded to the physical aspect of it, the scientific aspect of it, the natural aspect of it. The only thing that I'm not open-minded to of it being a missing link, but that's for whole nother show.
Yeah,
because I don't think that we evolved from apes.
Right. Yeah. Some of these authors, if they ever quote scripture and then they say they believe that if evolution is partly true, they just canceled one out with the other. You know what I mean? That means you believe in nothing.
No, because the way I look at it is if evolution was a real thing, sharks are older than trees, then how come sharks aren't walking around?
And there's something in scripture that talks in Genesis that talks about creatures after their own kind. That's those creatures were genetic banks. There were a certain kind of creature that were, and when the Lord created them in Genesis 1, and then in Genesis 6, when they were told to get into the ark, there was these certain creatures after their kind. They were a certain type of creature that got on the ark. They had all this genetic material makeup of all these different other kind of animals. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And a good video to watch. And tell your listeners to watch this.
You're talking to them right now.
Okay. It's called Is Genesis Real? And it's on Tubi. And I'm going to get the video. I'm going to buy the video off eBay because I got the videos like that I got to have.
Right.
And another couple of good authors to read is Dr. Russell Humphreys. He talks about the creation of the universe, and Dr. John D. Morris, and he just passed away last year.
Oh, okay.
But John D. Morris was in a video that came out when, golly, I can't remember how old I was, In Search of Noah's Ark. And that's the first time I saw that movie. And he was looking for he was on Mount Ararat and got hit by a bolt of lightning. Well, I listened to him speak at the Second Baptist Church in Houston, and the whole Creation Science Institute came down, and he talked about Mount St. Helens because he studied that after he'd been studying the Grand Canyon, and he's got Dr. John D. Morris. You can buy his books on eBay too, and those are two good Christian authors that have doctorate degrees that are bound in the Word, and they know what they're talking about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not like some of these guys. It's like some of these guys that bounce around from one theory to the next, and a lot of these guys that have these doctorates and stuff like that. Their reasoning is circular reasoning. They believe so this is such because so and so found this and he said this, and it's just circular reasoning. There's no foundation.
See, I call them mainstream. So they're going to jump on the mainstream bandwagon and chase a dollar.
Right. Exactly.
Because they have to be in the public spotlight. So they want that dollar. So they're not in it for the reality of it. They're in it for themselves and to chase that dollar into.
And that's why a lot of these are like these Sasquatch but these conventions that they have. It's I don't know. I used to go to them. I went to one and I listened to Jimmy Chilkit, and I got a big kick out of listening to him. He's a fingerprint expert, and they found it. They had a Bigfoot cast that they found right there in Conroe,
Yeah.
And that's only about 80 miles from here. Not even 80 miles from here,
Well, what I like about the conferences though is that generally, because I don't mind listening to the speakers, because I do want to hear some of their theories. In all honesty, and not saying because, in this field and in this hobby, and to be honest with you, it's, I'm open to listen to everybody's interpretation of it, I want to, I have mine, you have yours, Billy down the street has theirs. And I believe that we're either all partially right and we're all partially wrong.
Yeah. I'm still a student, man. I'm still learning.
Yep. Exactly. And to where one of the things is, I remember, I was in the military, I was told was always be learning and never be the smartest guy in the room. Those two things right there. So if I get a chance, when I get a chance to go and listen to some of these, because I'm not gonna lie, I've I put Bigfoot shows on, started watching them, and got 10 minutes into it and had to turn it off because it was just, I couldn't. So I'm with you on that one.
Right.
Not be able to follow this stuff. But Billy, I've had a good time talking with you tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Man.
No, would you be open to come back for a part 2?
Sure.
Because I know we got some other stuff we're going to talk about, some of the scriptures and stuff, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah, that'd be fun. Yeah, I'll start taking some notes and I know what to tell you.
That'll work. All right. I have to do the same thing. I'm booked solid for quite a little bit, though, so it will be a little bit before I get back to you. But we're definitely be communicating and talking. I'll let you know for sure when the episode drops.
Yeah, that's fine, Matt.
Yeah, but Billy, man, I've had such a good time with you on here. This has been so much fun.
Yeah, I'm retired, so you can get in touch with me anytime.
Same. I'm a text away. You always feel free to text me. I'll tell you that right now. I drive a little truck, so I may not respond immediately back, but that's how it is. But Billy, thanks again for coming on the show. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for listening to another episode of the Drunken Cryptids. Again, if you've had an encounter, please reach out to me. I don't care how crazy, weird, wild, and you have no idea what it could have been. Reach out. drunkencryptids@gmail.com. Follow us, like, subscribe, share us with your friends, share with your enemies, share us with whoever you have to share us with. I appreciate all the support. Y'all are doing great. We're growing out there. I appreciate it. Don't forget, I do have t-shirts, so please jump on the bandwagon. Everybody wants a t-shirt. Who doesn't like a t-shirt anyways? So come get a t-shirt. May have a new sponsor coming up, so maybe when this episode airs, there may be a sponsor involved in this episode. So thanks to them as well, but we'll talk more about that later. Other than that, thank you guys. Y'all stay safe. Have a good night.